Hey, you, it's Allison. I'm a death doula, grief educator, and coach, as well as an end of life services planner. I wanted to share with you a term that I hadn't heard of really before until recently when I attended a webinar with this group called opuspeace.org. The topic was centered around this phrase, unmourned grief or unmourned loss or unmourned emotions that are centered around some kind of loss, like a relationship, a job, experience, an opportunity, or the loss of a loved one. And so unmourned grief really refers to this deep sense of emotional pain and loss that an individual experiences, but has not fully acknowledged, expressed, or truly processed. It often occurs when someone feels like they have to suppress or even denies their feeling of grief, either due to societal expectations, cultural norms, personal reasons, or even sometimes just that lack of understanding about the importance of our mourning. The impact of unmourned grief can be really profound and pervasive. It can manifest in various ways, such as persistent sadness, anxiety, anger, difficult informing meaningful connections, memory loss, or even physical symptoms like fatigue and illness. Sometimes it feels like the flu. And unaddressed grief can really linger beneath the surface, and that influences a person's thoughts, behaviors, and overall being. So here's a few reasons why unmourned grief is really impactful. Number one is emotional suppression. When grief is not acknowledged or expressed, those emotions become suppressed. And this suppression can lead to emotional numbness, making it extremely challenging to fully experience joy or connect with our heart or with others. Number two is that unmourned grief has unresolved questions. Unmourned grief often involves those unresolved questions or unfinished business related to the loss. And so, without addressing these issues, individuals may struggle to, um, quote, find closure. I don't know that we ever really experience like what people determine closure is. And sometimes we're going to run across situations that we will never know the answers to. And so part of that impacts unmourned grief. When we have unmourned grief, it also has a significant impact on the relationships around us. Oftentimes, we that are experiencing this unintentionally distance ourselves from others. We find it really difficult to engage in relationships due to kind of that emotional burden that we carry. And this can, lead to isolation, which further exasperates the impact of unmourned grief. And then lastly, there's this physical health. And so there is a well established connection between emotional well being and physical health. And so when we have unresolved grief, it can contribute to stress, which manifests itself in physical symptoms and can potentially compromise or amplify immune system disorders and our overall health. And so, what do we do with this knowledge? Like, how do we move forward in our healing journey from unmourned grief? There's just a few ways, although I can't get into all of them. Here's just a high overview. Number one is self awareness, and it's truly recognizing and acknowledge that there is a presence of unmourned grief in our body, in our heart, and in our spirit, and really understanding that whatever we're feeling in our grieving process is absolutely natural and necessary to process our healing. Number two is to actively seek support, which I know can be really challenging. Really leaning into your community of people, even if they don't fully understand. If that doesn't feel right or comfortable for you, leaning into someone like a professional, like a grief coach or a therapist or a community support group who can really provide a safe space for expression, because sharing those feelings and experiences can really validate your emotions and facilitate that healing process. Also encourage people to have artistic expression, even if you're not an artist. I'm not an artist, and yet I have found different ways of artistic expression that really helps with the processing of those unmourned, of that unmourned grief. Sometimes we need something that is tangible to help us process and see that emotion. Those creative outlets, such as writing or journaling, like the scrapbooking journaling, or even music, can provide a means of expressing and exploring our emotions that are related to grief. And I think one more thing is, finding something that memorializes the honor of the one that we've lost, which can be a really powerful way to symbolize the acknowledgement of our grief. This could be commemorating anniversaries or creating a memorial space or participating in activities that hold particular significance. And so it's really important to note that healing from unmourned grief is a unique and individual process, and there's no one size that fits an all approach. And so really, one, taking the time to discover, like, what can I do to start to navigate my unmourned grief, and where can I find the support that would really give me the time and space to grieve, because these are crucial steps towards healing and finding a sense of closure. So as you hear me talk about this, what resonates with you, what hits home for you, and what's been your experience listening to what unmourned grief is and how we might be able to grow and heal around that?